Hallå. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar together with Bright Vision and Demandbase. We're so glad that you have joined us here today and have signed up for this webinar. I hope we will have 45-50 minutes together here that will be inspiring and insightful, and hopefully you will get away with a few more ideas and insights that you can apply to your own situation wherever you're working as a marketeer. My name is Jacob Löwenbrand. I'm the managing director of Bright Vision, and I'm hosting here a little bit today, but I'm not going to present the content. We have an expert in this area who's Leanne Chescoe, who's senior manager for field marketing for EMEA at Demandbase. And as you know, Demandbase is one of the leading platforms within the ABM space, and she has a lot of interesting content to cover here today. And to our help, we also have Emma Kotka, who is our marketing coordinator here at Bright Vision. And as I said, we will go on for 40 minutes and, of course, have a Q&A session at the end so you can pick Leanne's brain really as much as you want so we get the grip of this. We also have an ABM consultation as an offer for 1 hour with one of our experts here at Bright Vision. So if you are into ABM or you're somewhere down that path and really want an external kind of second opinion, where are you going? How can we help you? Or what should you invest in? Should you add on modules, or should you, whatever it is, we can be there and give you our advice for free. So you can just sign up for that either now or after or during the event. And we'll contact you afterwards in order to have this meeting. And just very shortly, in 30 seconds, around Bright Vision, we're an agency working in Europe, actually the whole Europe, helping B2B tech companies to grow, to accelerate their sales, and to drive their revenue by doing marketing campaigns with different sort of tactics, but both outbound as well as inbound, or a combination of them as multi-channel campaigns. And these are a few of the clients we're working with. And we're around 100 employees. And if you're interested in those things that we do, which encompasses everything from paid media, content creation, and marketing automation, of course, ABM, of course, as well as to SDR for hire, inside sales teams that you can outsource, and so forth. We are more than willing to take a discussion afterwards. And yes, one last announcement. The 15th of September, we have the opportunity to hear Leanne once more. So before we forget that at the end, I will probably remind you again. We have a next event in only 2 weeks called ABM Day. So if you haven't signed up for ABM Day, please do it now, because Leanne is not only going to be there herself, even though she's great and you will have great content there, she will be accompanied by a few other speakers as well. But enough about that. Now, I'm so happy to present you, Leanne, and I'm so stoked to hear your content. So welcome to today's webinar, and the stage is yours.
Perfect, thank you. I'm just going to move my slides back. It looks like it's skipped a few of my slides. So 1 second to go. Just going to move them right back to the beginning because they're near to the end. Sorry about this, 1 moment. So yeah, thanks for the intro, Jacob. There we go. That's where we want to be. So I'm Leanne Chescoe, Senior Marketing Manager for the EMEA region here at Demandbase. And for those of you that don't know Demandbase, we're essentially all about smarter go-to-market. So our solutions help unite sales and marketing teams around rich and reliable account intelligence, and that's activated wherever you interact with your customers and prospects in advertising, account-based experience, sales, and your systems and our technology essentially allows those revenue teams to spot opportunities earlier, engage more intelligently, and close deals faster. And my role at Demandbase is covering all marketing for the EMEA region. So I'm kind of heading up that region, and I'm responsible for planning and executing our account-based strategy in the region. And ABM and ABX is very much part of our DNA at Demandbase. We use our own technology to execute our own strategy. And I've been here for just over 6 years, so I hope to share some best practices with you today. So with that, let's get started. I think as B2B marketers and sellers, we are all fully aware just how much that B2B buyer's journey has changed and just how complex it is today. It's almost entirely digital, meaning it's more and more anonymous and harder for us as marketers to really spot when those accounts and buyers are in market. And many solutions that we already have in our tech stack, like CRM and marketing automation, they're great technologies, but they're really focused on what happens after somebody fills out that form and becomes known to you. And, as you can kind of see from this image, once they get to that form fill stage, they're about 2/3 of the way down the buying sort of journey. So, the problem is there's a lot of research that's happening off of your website before they get to that form fill stage, before it's filled out. And sometimes if you're waiting for that form fill, you're waiting too long because they've progressed down that kind of journey stage too long. And I think what's equally important is that the B2B buying decisions are made up of groups of people. It's no longer one or two people. We're dealing with much larger buying committees now. And because they are groups of people, when that one person shows engagement, they're actually more likely representing a committee of people who are all conducting all of their own evaluations, considering if your organization's the right fit and how you might align with their other kind of initiatives and projects, which can be pretty complex, right? And all of these kind of complexities does create obstacles for us as revenue teams, as marketers and as sellers. And I think that first one is around not having a full view of the buyer committee. And this is really, really common. And it's kind of what we refer to as this fragmented go-to-market, where your sales is using one platform, marketing is using another, and you don't have that clear view of what's kind of happening at the account level. So that anonymous buying journey, with so much that's happening outside of your knowledge, and that buyer who is no longer that single person, but a whole buyer committee, and you'd be lucky if you actually know half of those people are. Then kind of coupled with that, a lot of organizations just aren't sure which accounts to target because they don't have that kind of full view of accounts. And there's so many kind of overwhelming, signals out there. Today's sellers just don't have access to that right data to be able to know, which account should I be pursuing, what account should be in my target market, where do they sit in the buyer's journey, how, what should I be saying? And sometimes they're just forced to rely on gut feel. And that really, isn't a great way to operate. And they're really running the risk of missing those key opportunities. And then finally, from the buyer's perspective, what happens because all of this data is kind of fragmented across different systems, what's happening is marketing and sales are spamming contacts with unwanted outreach. You've got the right messages hitting the wrong people, the wrong messages hitting the right people, bad timing, and on and on. And this isn't just about email spam. It's that every, irrelevant message on every digital and non-digital channel. And the end result is just, missed opportunities, frustrated buyers because they're not getting a great experience with your brand. And ultimately, your executives are unhappy because there's lost revenue. And the winners in today's market are going to be those who are going to be able to master the digital group buying journey. So you need to be able to identify those accounts earlier in the kind of buying stage, engage those accounts, and buying teams kind of shift away from this kind of lead focused model, engaging early and being relevant across digital channels, and really being able to master the power of all of this intelligence that you're getting from all of your accounts. So kind of what is the answer? And the answer really lies in account-based experience, or ABX. So, what do we mean by that? Let's have a look at a definition. So account-based experience is really a go-to-market strategy that uses data and insights to orchestrate relevant, timely marketing and sales actions throughout that B2B customer lifecycle. And this is really the next evolution of account-based marketing, and it really uses all of the best practices of a customer experience strategy. I think one of the most important things about an ABX strategy is that this is actually a go-to-market strategy. It's that fundamental strategy that spans all of your go-to-market efforts. It's not just a simple campaign or tactic. You know, we're just going to do an ABM program for these particular accounts, but we're going to have, this is going to be, you know, how we go to market. And part of that kind of important bit is the data and insights. And this is where that is really key. So you're using research on those accounts, you're using artificial intelligence, intent signals to identify, you know, who those accounts are, who has the highest propensity to buy. And you can see, you know, what content they're engaging with, what topics are most relevant to them, where they sit in the buyer journey. So then you know how to engage with those accounts and what to say to them. And that really helps your brand stay relevant. It stays trusted because it's engaging those business buyers in a trusted way on their own terms. And it also involves an orchestrated process between marketing, sales, and all of those customer-facing teams. And it touches all aspects of that full buying journey. So you're kind of not doing that, you know, that baton pass when a leader's at NQL stage and it's handed over to sales, off you go, you close it, marketing has nothing more to do with it. In an ABX world, you're actually touching all aspects of that full customer journey, from brand to post-sale expansion. So this is helping to identify net new business opportunities, but also upsell and cross-sell opportunities within your existing accounts. So, you know, where do you kind of get started? And I think part of it is like really building that solid go-to-market strategy. And here are some of the key kind of steps to take. It's really about building your account-based foundation, being able to kind of have that, you know, single view of your accounts, finding and prioritizing those target accounts, using, you know, artificial intelligence driven kind of signals and intent data to help you prioritize those accounts. Then engage with those accounts and people within those accounts via kind of smarter go-to-market across multiple channels. Then once they, you know, become a customer, it's actually looking at expansion opportunities within those accounts. And then being able to kind of measure all of that engagement across the entire buyer journey and kind of seeing, you know, what are we doing? How is that actually impacting and moving the needle? And I think there's always a lot of talk around kind of putting that strategy in place first, then kind of getting a technology kind of in place to use it. But I honestly think for best results, it's actually a combination of both strategy and technology. You need that technology to actually in place to help you determine, you know, what account should I have on my target account list? That's such a crucial part, making sure that you've got those right accounts. So having that account intelligence to be able to see which accounts are showing those buyer intent, you know, what accounts are visiting my website, who's researching, you know, your competitors. That's really good information that you want to be able to see. And then, you know, from that, what accounts should be prioritized for sales outreach and marketing campaigns? You know, who are your most engaged accounts and buyers, and what channels are you going to use to drive more engagement? And then finally, thinking about actually how can we scale sales and marketing touches based on account engagement? Where can we start to automate some of these triggers and create campaigns that actually respond to real buying behaviors? And I'm going to share some examples, some real life examples of actually some of my own programs at Demandbase and kind of what I'm doing to engage with my target accounts. And it puts a lot of this into kind of practical campaigns and programs as well. So I think the kind of first step really, and this is where, again, technology can help, but having something like that ABX platform can really help connect that first and third party data. You know, first party data is great as those buyers are known to us as marketers and sellers. And the most common way of collecting this information is generally, you know, via a form fill on our websites. But at that point, as I mentioned in one of my first slides, those buyers are typically 2/3 of the way down the buyer journey. So getting to them as early as possible is really crucial. And then connecting the known and unknown, again, helps you prioritize accounts. It can also help surface accounts that may not be known to you, that aren't in your radar, on your radar, that don't exist in your CRM system. And it really helps you set your strategy and give your revenue teams that one clear view of their accounts. A good example here is really knowing where to effectively spend your digital marketing budget. So you can get insight to see, okay, I know these are the accounts that are actually visiting my website anonymously. So you can adjust your advertising campaigns as needed. You might want to spend less money marketing to those accounts because they're already coming to your website, and add them to a nurture campaign, perhaps spend more money on attracting other accounts to your website that aren't currently visiting, or maybe the engagement is a little bit low. So that's kind of one example of, where technology can help you. And I think another key part of this kind of ABX strategy, this is kind of what it looks like in practice. So we're all kind of aligning interactions to the buyer's journey as well. We're kind of using those deep account insights, and account intelligence here is really key. So this allows you to segment not only your things like your advertising campaigns to where those accounts are in the buyer's journey, but also just be really relevant across all of those different kind of channels and outreach that sales and marketing are doing. And the journey stages that we're seeing here, this is actually an example of the journey stages we use at Demandbase. And we actually went through the exercise of mapping all of our content to each of the different stages in the buyer's journey, because you want to ensure that each interaction is relevant to that individual receiving that message and useful enough to be worthy of your buyer's attention. So that content mapping exercise is really key. And here's an example of kind of what that looks like in practice. So at Demandbase, we have a very segmented approach to our advertising campaigns. So we have an always-on approach. So we'll have all of our kind of key accounts and our ICP accounts. We advertise to all of them throughout the quarter, but we segment it by account tier. We segment it by journey stage. And then if those accounts are then showing intent, they'll get relevant messaging. But that's really important because for us, a tier 1 account is kind of higher value to us and more important to us than a tier 4 account. So we want to adjust our spend kind of accordingly within those campaigns to make sure that we're spending more money advertising to our tier 1 accounts and driving more engagement with them. But also that journey stage is crucial because where they are on the journey stage depends on kind of what message that you're serving to them as well. As they move through each of those different journey stages, we build out all of our account lists and people lists. So as dynamic lists, which essentially means as those buyers move through the different journey stages, they automatically get added to the right campaign with the right message, and then that spend is adjusted accordingly. And then we're also layering on intent. So if they're showing intent for a particular product, they're getting served messaging for that particular product as well. And I think that's really kind of been key to our success, and we've seen tremendous kind of results from that, just in terms of engagement from those accounts, and just how many more accounts kind of visit our website and how we're able to keep those accounts engaged throughout that whole entire kind of buyer's journey as well. And then we're kind of, we know that we're targeting the right people, and we can get more granular. We actually use something called people-based advertising. So we can get a list of accounts. We know those are the right accounts to target. And then we can layer on people-based advertising. Like, these are the contacts that we know that are in this account. They're relevant job titles for us. And then we can kind of pick the different kind of ad destinations as well. So we'll have our own display campaigns running through Demandbase, but there's lots of different ad destinations that we can use. So Google and LinkedIn being some of them. We can then make sure that they're getting the right content and right message at the right time as well. So I would definitely say, this is just been really great for us in terms of having that insight into the buyer's journey and structuring our campaigns in this way. And we've been doing this for about a year now and continue to do that. But that automation doesn't just stop at advertising. That can actually be done across channels too. And in this example, we're actually looking at the company goal here is to actually increase engagement with the sales persona. So kind of one first step you can look at is saying, okay, I want to acquire net new contacts from the sales persona. So I'm going to build an audience or an account list with no sales personas and add them to a display campaign and look for more kind of sales personas within that to to kind of build up my my list of sales contacts within those particular accounts. You might want to run an engagement or re-engagement campaign to sales personas. You can build that audience of those kind of known sales persona contacts. You can push them through to a LinkedIn campaign and specifically just target those sales persona contacts. That's something we do quite a lot of as well at Demandbase. We actually use a combination of LinkedIn advertising and our own display advertising. We'll use generally kind of Demandbase for those contacts that we know, take that same list of accounts, push that through to LinkedIn and say, exclude the known contacts from my ad campaigns in LinkedIn, just use my LinkedIn campaigns to go and find me new contacts. So we're not duplicating spend advertising to the same contacts in two different places. We're just really maximizing the budget that we have as well. And it can also be used for sales outreach technologies as well. So it can be, automations that you can set up for your SDR team to use tools like SalesLoft or Outreach as well. So I think that kind of automation, kind of once you're up and running, can be really helpful, just to have these kind of always on campaigns that are set up dynamically, so that as those different accounts and buyers move through the journey, you're able to get all of those different interactions across different channels. So now we kind of talked about how to use all of that great account intelligence as a marketeer to better segment your campaigns across channels. But the key part to any good ABX strategy is sharing all of those insights with your sales team and actually delivering it to them in the places that they're working. So they can get all of the great account insight via an email digest. If they wanted to have that daily, weekly, however frequently, they can get that through a Slack notification or at the account level within the CRM system that they're working in as well. And this has a huge impact on two things. The first one, sales and marketing alignment, which we always talk about when we're talking about any kind of account-based strategy. It's so key to have those both of those teams aligned. And the second one is that around 85% of B2B sales reps who receive alerts on their opportunities says it helps them do their job better. So two compelling reasons as to sharing, as to why you should be sharing all of these kind of juicy sales insights with your sales friends. And I've got some examples later in terms of how we kind of look at sales and marketing alignment at Demandbase, and then some examples of some reports that we share with our sales team and our SDR team. Then kind of once you're up and running with this kind of ABX strategy, you really need to focus on how best to prove success of your programs and engagement with your target accounts. And as I mentioned earlier, really going to shift from being leads focused to account focused. And it really becomes that quality over quantity game as well. So you are going to want to make sure that your sales and marketing teams are measuring the same things. So, what kind of KPIs and metrics should you be using? And they kind of fall into two categories. You've got your longer term KPIs and metrics and your shorter term ones here as well. And the reason why there's two sort of different ones is, it might take up to 6 months or perhaps longer for accounts to get into pipeline or for deals to close. And this is obviously going to vary for each organization, and that's going to, depend on the length of your sales cycles. But shorter term metrics are really more kind of engagement metrics. So that's going to be, how much of our target account or how many of our target accounts are visiting our website, what content are they engaging with, how many contacts within our target accounts are showing that engagement, what kind of intent are they showing, do we have any target accounts that are in pipeline, do we have any target accounts that have moved to kind of closed one opportunity, what is the typical conversion to pipeline from a target account. And then those kind of longer term metrics as well is looking at actually what is the average kind of deal size of these accounts that were on our target account list, close rates, funnel velocity. And you can compare a target account to a non-target account. If you're spending a lot more of your budget and your programs dedicated to engaging with those target accounts, you should see more engagement from those accounts. You should see those accounts go into pipeline a lot quicker. And you should see things like the deal sizes should be bigger, because you've been able to get to those accounts earlier in the buying cycle and have more influence over that opportunity. Close rate should increase, and funnel velocity should also increase as well, because you're able to see where they are at the journey stage, if they're getting stuck. Having all of that kind of account insight and being able to take action on that is really key. An ABX done right, in kind of summary, is a good, this is kind of what a good ABX strategy and execution looks like. So being, aligning sales and marketing around a focused set of accounts, having that agreement from both teams is to say, these are the target accounts that we're going to go after, engaging those accounts with actionable intelligence. So again, going back to that content, the right message at the right time based on where they are in the journey stage, and being able to measure your performance against those target markets as well. So we've kind of heard about the theory of ABX, but I want to share some real life ABX programs with you, starting with how we think about our ABX strategy at Demandbase. And this is our account tier structure for 2022. So from a marketing standpoint, we are really focused on maximizing our engagement and getting accounts in tiers 1, 2, and 3 into pipeline. We have an always on advertising approach to accounts in tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4. But that just enables us to say, okay, those accounts that are, which ones fit our kind of ideal customer profile for at least one of our cloud solutions, and then we can layer on intent and engagement data. But ultimately, we can kind of go through this account scoring exercise to say these are the accounts that fit all of our ideal customer profile characteristics, like they're the right industry fit, the right revenue size, they're headquartered in Europe for us, that's what we're sort of focused on. They have this marketing tech stack, and then we can layer on other things like revenue data, employee size, any kind of funding, recent kind of funding announcements, the size of their sales and marketing team is another thing that we look at. But we ultimately kind of say to our account team, these are the ones that we suggest go on your target account list. They get the ultimate say, but we definitely give them some guidance. And then each of our sales reps actually has complete control over tiering. So they decide, this is my target account list. It's around 200 accounts per sales rep for us. And then they can decide within that, who are my accounts that I want for my tier 1 accounts? And that's 5 for each sales rep. Tier 2 is 30, and then the remainder go into tier 3, and that makes up their target account list. So as I mentioned, everything for us is really focused around driving the most engagement and driving pipeline. And then the kind of target account list, the ICP accounts within tier 4, is still a good fit for us, and we continue to market to those. So this is how kind of our structure works and how we think about our account tiering and our kind of total addressable market. And then what we've kind of built out, and this really helps with that sales and marketing alignment piece, is what we call entitlements. And this is essentially saying, this is how we're going to service all of those accounts in your tiers 1, 2, and 3. So you can see like most of our kind of marketing programs, activity, and budget is being spent at those top 3 tiers. Tier 4 will get, quite a bit of advertising budget and other programs. Tier 5 will get kind of a lower level of support, but just so sales are aware of like, okay, I know that I'm going to get this amount of coverage from marketing in these accounts. So having this kind of entitlement set up has been really helpful just for us for planning and budgeting and building out programs for different account tiers, but also from that sales and marketing alignment as well. So here are some ABX program examples, and these are for from the last, some in Q2, some in Q3, just in terms of kind of how we approach our own strategy within the region. And we do a lot of industry specific campaigns. So this is an example of one that we did for software accounts. This was back in, I think it was in April. And we always use, a multi-channel approach to all of our campaigns. So we have specific content for, software accounts that we kind of use for the landing page, for ads as well. I think there's an example in here for financial services. So we do call blitzes for each of those different industries. We'll run ad campaigns to kind of warm those accounts up warm those accounts up before the call blitz happens. There'll be email campaigns. A lot of those accounts will get a customized homepage experience. So what you're seeing on the bottom left is an experience for our software accounts, and this is one for our financial services. We also have a web chat tool, and we use customized offers for accounts. We've got actually a separate one running right now for our tier 2 accounts. So if you're a tier 2 account, you should get a customized experience and a special offer once you hit the Demandbase website. And then call blitzes, and that is essentially a week where our SDRs are really focused on calling and doing lots of outbound prospecting to these accounts. And we'll pick those accounts. They'll be from our target account list, but they'll be the most engaged accounts. So where are we seeing high intent around our each of our different products? Where are we seeing the highest amount of marketing engagement minutes is another criteria that we look at as well. And that helps kind of build out, these are the focused accounts for this particular campaign. One really fun one that we did, this is an example of a campaign we did back in June, was a re-engagement campaign to close lost opportunities. So we wanted to try and do some kind of, or get some kind of win back opportunities. So we looked at 2 years of closed lost opportunities, and it was a specific closed lost reason that we were going after. We used some of our Demandbase mascot DB. You can see them here, lifting weights, and it was just really fun messaging on, you know, we've been working on ourselves since we last spoke. During that time period, Demandbase actually acquired 3 companies. We went through this whole rebrand. We had a brand new platform. So, you know, things had changed, and we had been working on ourselves, and we just kind of used this fun creative in our ads to these particular group of accounts. And they got this custom, this personalized homepage experience when they came to our website as well. And then that was followed up with an email campaign. And then SDR outreach was more tailored around, you know, the people that they spoke to last time. They could bring in the sort of more of the history of the account, who they spoke to, what their challenges were at the time, to kind of bring in a little bit more context. And it was really successful for us. You know, I think this was about 12 accounts we targeted for this particular campaign. And we got some engagement opportunities for about 3 of those. So not a bad conversion rate. But I just really love these kind of really like tailored, personalized campaigns. Web chat I mentioned earlier. We actually use a tool called Qualified, and we can set up so many different unique experiences depending on who those accounts are. We can tailor it to the journey stage that those accounts are in, the web page that they're seeing, what kind of offers, and, you know, how engaged those accounts are. So we have lots of different experiences running. Right now, we've got an offer for our tier 2 accounts to get a pipeline acceleration report. But again, web chat is another great channel to use and to personalize that experience for those accounts as well. Automation is something that I mentioned as well earlier, and this is where we start to use the orchestration part of our platform. And I love this because we have a lean team, lean marketing team in EMEA. So this is essentially an extension of our team, and it just enables us to automate a lot more, or get a lot more kind of automated campaigns running, but still make them really personalized based on engagement. So this example is actually one that we use for direct mail. So we have a direct mail platform that we use, and we have a rule set up to say, okay, when a contact from one of our target accounts hits 20 marketing engagement minutes in a month, or they visit a high value web page, so that's one of our product pages or demo page or on-demand demo, trigger an action for a direct mail, and it sends a contact an email to redeem a gift card. And it's about £20, €20 like value for coffee. And the SDR who owns that account also receives a weekly report of contacts that meet that engagement criteria, so they know who to follow up if they've redeemed that gift card, maybe, you know, send them a reminder to redeem it. And the contact is sent to a landing page where they can redeem their gift card, and then they can select, you know, what country they're based on, so they get the right gift card for that country. Something really simple but effective. And this can be used across lots of different areas as well. Another way that we use this is for journey stages. So if we can see, you know, we need to get more accounts to, you know, a marketing qualified account stage, because we know when they get to that stage, we have a really high conversion rate of getting them to be closed won opportunities. So we really want to push more accounts to that stage. And let's use orchestration to try and help nurture those accounts and keep that engagement as well. And in this example, we actually set up various nurture streams for accounts at different journey stages. This is particularly looking at what we call our aware stage. So we can say where any contacts that are at this stage for 2 weeks or more, add them to this nurture campaign. This nurture campaign then runs for a few weeks. And then once that nurture campaign has finished, trigger an action for the SDR to then follow up. So you want to keep making sure that we're feeding them content that's relevant to where they are on the journey stage, but also trying to reduce the amount of time that they spend at any different journey stage. And this can really help with stuck deals or getting those accounts to those stages where you have really good conversion into pipeline. Sales and marketing alignment. So I want to kind of wrap up by talking about ABX stand-ups. So I'm a huge fan of these. We've been doing these at Demandbase for quite a long time now. And essentially, these are a monthly meeting with a marketer, a sales rep, and their SDR. And it's a really good opportunity where we review that sales rep's target account list. So we'll assess things like, is there any gaps in pipeline? Is there any deals that are stuck at a certain stage? Are there any accounts that the SDR should be focused on because we're seeing, spikes in intent and engagement? Are there any accounts that are stuck at journey stages and we put an action plan in to kind of accelerate those deals? Are there any key stakeholders within an account that are not engaging? So we know kind of where we need to focus our efforts in, and we put these kind of personalized plans together for either segments of accounts, or perhaps we, sometimes we'll just focus on a tier 1 account and how we can really best try and engage with those accounts. But then, it might come, we might sort of take a campaign kind of might come out of there. There's lots of different ideas and kind of brainstorm that happens. It might be, we need to have a dedicated call blitz for this group of accounts, or we need to do this particular really personalized campaign for this particular account. But it's just that monthly meeting where we can share those ideas, kind of review, as I said, where those kind of any gaps are and how you can basically work together as a team. And they've been so successful for us. And this is something that I always share with our customers and encourage them to do the same as well. And then this is a couple of examples of just weekly reports that we set up for our sales team and for our SDR team. I won't kind of read through all of these, but it just really helps them both plan their week out and really know, where should I focus my efforts this week? Where are the accounts that I need to follow up and prioritize? Who are the people that I should be, reaching out to? And these are some of the, information that we pull into those reports. Some sales members have them daily. They like to see those. We can customize them for each rep as to what they like to see. But this just really helps them, know where to prioritize. So kind of in summary, having this approach to your go-to-market strategy, it really enables you to, identify those new markets, have that one view of accounts, which is so important because so many organizations have that fragmented data. It's really important to get that clear view between your account teams. Take action on, post-sale stages to help grow your business, and where you can work with your sales team to identify those upsell and cross-sell opportunities. And also orchestrate those ABX plays across different channels. So those examples that I shared around, engagement, an account gets to a certain engagement stage, trigger an action for a direct mail campaign, or kind of put them into a nurture campaign if they're stuck at a certain journey stage. So I think revenue teams really, the ones that are really going to, have access to that account intelligence and take action on it, are really going to be the ones that are going to master the buying journey as well. So I think we had a couple of questions in the chat. I did want to share an additional piece of content with you. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Perfect. Thank you so much, Emma, for showing that.
Yeah.
So I'd say definitely read the guide. It's really comprehensive. It's written by our CMO, and it breaks kind of everything down into kind of manageable bits depending on where you are on your own kind of account-based journey. So definitely check that out.
Awesome, Leanne. Thank you so much for this content. That was great and really, really good examples you gave us. I am always a big fan of breaking it down to practical advices and checklists and under the hood things that you showed your campaign. So thank you so much for that, as well as laying out the foundations and the strategies. So that is so cool. And we have quite a few questions coming in here. And Emma, you are our questions master. So let's see what we got here from Leanne.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat. The first one being from Christina. And she's wondering, how often do you think one should reassess the current ABM strategy to make sure you're working in the smartest and most time-efficient way possible?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks, Christina. I think, we review ours like on a monthly basis. So part of the kind of going back to the strategy bit, a good tip is to build, we call it an ABM leadership team. I was chatting to a customer yesterday, they call it their SWAT team, whatever you kind of want to call it internally. But having that team of whoever kind of in marketing is leading your ABM efforts, somebody from your operations side. So I'd say both marketing operations, sales operations, and sales leadership, to really kind of and look at firstly agreeing things like if you're just starting out, what is your ideal customer profile? Getting that agreement and then agreeing on those accounts to include on your target account list. But I'd say meet monthly and have a look at how those accounts are moving through the funnel. Are all teams kind of working together well enough and really moving the needle? So I'd say probably monthly to begin with, just to really kind of assess that. And then in terms of target accounts, we actually look at ours every 6 months and make bigger changes to it. And that really, again, depends on your length of your sales cycles, how your sales teams are structured. So we have a split of enterprise and mid-market. Sales reps at Demandbase with enterprise accounts, those reps have fewer accounts on their list because they're much bigger. Deal sizes are much larger. The sales cycles take longer than compared to a mid-market. So those reps need more. So I'd say, every 6 months we do a bigger refresh, and then we assess the tiering every quarter.
So you mentioned there like on a monthly basis to reassess. What if you have that reassess session and realize, okay, this current strategy isn't working the most time efficiently, it's not the smartest one that we could achieve, we can do better. How would you then recommend someone to change that? Like how often should one then reassess? Should that be like weekly then to like follow up and to really solve the problem?
Yeah, I think it depends on like what the goals are. So to give you an example, some of my key objectives for this year is to be like, I want to increase the percentage of target accounts that are in pipeline. We want to get more of target accounts in, our pipeline should be made up of more target accounts than non-target accounts. I look at that like every day and see how many changes and programs I can make. So I actually implement those changes like weekly, just based on like what the goal is. Yeah, it depends on what the goal is, when you want to achieve that goal by. But for me, I'm looking at it, that's my quarterly goal. So I'm looking at this stuff like daily and weekly and making those changes.
Yeah, sounds good. Another question is from Lorraine. How long can one expect to start seeing clear results after having implemented a smarter ABM strategy, would you say?
Yeah.
It also depends on the objectives of the strategy, but
and there's different ways of looking at measurement as well. So going back to those kind of metrics that I shared, so you're going to have shorter term and longer term objectives. And it again depends how long your sales cycles are, how engaged those accounts are. If you're looking at shorter term metrics, if you're running an advertising campaign, you can get pretty quick results back from that. You can see the engagement of those accounts increase. You can see, accounts that were visiting your website that weren't previously visiting your website. You can see that there's more, people in that account that are engaged. There's a spike in intent around certain products. So that sort of insight, if you've got the right technology in place, you can see that really quickly. And then there's longer term metrics in terms of those accounts getting into pipeline and close one. As I said earlier, it really depends on how long those sales cycles are. But the shorter term metrics would be like weeks. Yeah, you can see that pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it all depends then. If we were to sum it up, depends on.
Yes.
Another question is from Fernando. When having implemented a hopefully smarter, more time efficient ABM strategy, how do you believe the best way is to measure the success of it?
So I think I probably answered that in the previous question. So that's again looking back to those metrics in those shorter term metrics. So, how engaged are our target accounts? How many of those are coming to our website? How many, who's engaging with our program? What does the engagement of the buying committee look like across all of our target accounts? And then longer term metrics, it would be things more like how many of those are going into pipeline? What's the average deal size for a target account versus a non-target account?
Yes, thank you. That's a great answer. And the last question here in the chat is from Mikkel. What kind of methods of getting good quality intent data would you recommend? And how rich do these data need to be usable in your own strategy?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm obviously going to be biased because I work for Demandbase and we use that platform. So that is my experience of intent. But I think, having a look at, there's obviously other technologies out there in the market. But I think the key thing is it's about whatever kind of technology that you're using. It's really about how you can take action on that or if you're able to take action on it. So having that sort of clear insight into, firstly, what are the accounts that are, match our ideal customer profile, which ones of those are showing intent, and then being able to take action on it. I think that's the key thing, because you could have this intent data, but you might not be able to see, are those accounts visiting your website? They might be researching your competitors, but not coming to your site. So I'd say looking at that solution that kind of gives you that overall view into not just intent, but that account intelligence. So you can see all of those different interactions would be key.
To get the big picture of all the interactions going on.
Yeah. And the second part is how rich does it need to be usable in your own strategy? So when I was putting a account list this morning for a software call blitz campaign that we're launching next week. And I look at high and medium intent as well. And I set that over a time period. So that will be any accounts that are within that particular industry that are part of our target account list that are showing high and medium intent. I actually broke it out by product intent over like a 1 or 2 month period. So I look at recent intent as well. So it has to be pretty recent to still be able to, to capture that account's interest if it's something that they're currently researching. So I would say look at those intent signals where you've got high sort of intent from that particular account, where you've got multiple people within that account. There's lots of different activity on that account of multiple people researching the same thing. That's a really good indication. And then in terms of using in our own strategy, these are our most engaged accounts showing the highest intent. Another example of how we use intent is looking at what accounts are researching our competitors and running competitor displacement campaigns. So it's looking at, how much activity there is around that intent keyword on that account, and then how recent that activity is.
Great. I think that was all the questions that we had in the chat. I have one last question for you, Leanne. If you were to leave the audience with one last tip to boost the ABM strategy for the rest of the year, what would it be?
I think just get started and test it out. If you're new to it, just test it out. I think if you're new to it, take a small group of accounts to start with, and then just always be kind of learning from what's working, what isn't working, having your regular meetings with your ABM leadership team or your SWAT team, whatever you want to call it internally, just constantly reviewing it, going to other events. We've got ABM Day in a few weeks, but just learning from other ABMers in terms of what they're doing. So I think always be learning and improving your strategy would be my advice.
That's very true. And there's loads of ABM knowledge out there. So
there is.
That's great. We actually got another question here from Mikkel. How to create those triggered campaigns outside Demandbase?
Yeah, so there's different integrations that we have with other technology platforms like Salesforce, marketing automation platforms, sales enablement tools. So you're able to set those triggers and those automations up through those tools as well.
Okay, yeah, I think that was everything from the Q&A from the attendees here. Do you have anything else there, Jacob? I mean,
no, I just want to say thank you so much. It was really insightful, and thank you for sharing generously how you yourself are applying your own processes and platforms. I think that was really interesting.
Great.
And with that, I also want to highlight again that we can hear Leanne once more in 14 days, roughly, maybe 3 weeks, in ABM Day, September the 15th. So if you haven't done it before, please sign up there if you want to have more insight into best practices and trends in ABM marketing from a lot of different angles. Leanne, thank you so much for this time. I'm looking forward to hear you once more in a few weeks' time. So, but for today, thank you so much for your time and effort, and thank you everybody for listening in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day. Bye.